Who Dat, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Who Dat Dish podcast. We are part of Who Dat Dish and Fansided, providing you with the best Saints podcast this side of the Mississippi. We hope you are having a great Tuesday and start to your week after the heartbreaker from Sunday, which we'll talk about in just a bit. As always, I'm your host, Dayton Brown.
Who Dat, guys? I'm your other host, Tyler Raymond. We want to thank all the listeners here for tuning to our podcast, for checking us out on Twitter, which you haven't, by the way. That's at the WDD podcast. During the off-season, we'll be doing a lot of polls, having surprise guests often on the show, so make sure to check us out, follow us there so you're up to date with everything. Today, though, we have to fight through disappointment to recap what went down on Sunday with the Saints and the Vikings. Joining us is a guy who will be smiling a lot more than the rest of us this week. He was actually on the show last week. He's a site expert over at Viking Age, also part of Fansided, and the longtime host of the Purple People podcast, which can be found on iTunes and YouTube, just like us, guys. Please welcome back to the show 2 weeks in a row, Adam Carlson. How are you, Adam?
Oh, I'm doing great, and thanks for having me back. You're talking about this heartbreaking loss. I don't remember that. When did that happen?
Oh, yeah. Okay, Adam. I see. It's a little bit different on this side. And
it is. It's weird talking to people on both sides of the situation. Right. I mean, for us, it was all elation. I mean, going and watching a lot of the YouTube reaction videos of just people going from pure excitement to watching Saints fans throwing their TV off balconies.
I saw that one with the guy who threw his TV out. I don't know if that was fake or what, but if it was real, I mean, that's what.
I hope there was nobody down there.
Right, exactly, and that's what we all felt inside too. Like some of us had to get outside, but that's what we all felt inside.
I've felt that pain before. Trust me.
What?
Hey, Dayton.
Yeah, what's up?
You know how one thing we forgot to do last podcast I have ready for us this podcast?
What's up? What's that?
Hey, the Saints still lost, but that still means I can still play a hit to Sean Payton, right?
Yeah. Do you have it right now?
I have it right now.
You play it real quick right now, and then we'll play more of it when we do the season recap later this week.
Okay.
Yeah, we did forget to play it last week. Played a little bit, hit the Sean Payton.
I can get my.
This might brain up our moods a little bit, but oh man. And this was the celebration before, obviously before Sunday. So that was awesome. That was awesome. Thanks, Tyler. So Adam, obviously you're feeling really good. We're gonna get into a little bit more about your feelings, but real quick before we get into anything, plug away at your social media where everybody can find you. Let them know where all the links are, where they can listen to you talk and write your work.
Definitely, yeah.
Read your writing, sorry.
You can head on over to the Viking Age. I have already published a couple articles that might ruffle you guys' feathers a little bit. I just did one about 5 minutes ago, which I don't know if you're not listening to this live, which you won't be. But, there'll be some good content up there on the VikingAge.com if you want to check out the other side's perspective on that. Otherwise, like you said, YouTube, iTunes is a Purple People podcast. We already recorded our episode of that, and a couple of my co-hosts on there were pretty riled up, and there was some foul language being spewed. I'm a bit more calm than they are, so it's worth checking out just if you want to hear a little bit of that. And if you're a big fan of The Walking Dead, check out undeadwalking.com. Lots of great articles on The Walking Dead. Great time to be excited over there. Season 9 just got renewed. You got the second half of Season 8 coming up. Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 coming out. It's a super exciting time in the comics. So, if you're into The Walking Dead, head on over, undeadwalking.com. And also, you can download apps on both, Apple and Android devices for all three, I believe.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So, let's move on to that exciting game with the Saints and Vikings. So, sorry, Saints fans. I was right there with you. I cried a little bit. This one hurt a bit. So it was the divisional round game between the New Orleans Saints and the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, it was in Minnesota. It was an exciting game, but for the first half, the Saints really didn't do much, and nothing seemed to go their way. The Minnesota Vikings were pretty dominant on all cylinders, in the first half. And things changed a bit. It's funny, not everyone is really giving Marcus Williams the credit, but he actually really had a game-changing interception that really changed the tides for the Saints a bit. They were down 17-0 at the half, but ended up pulling through, scored a couple touchdowns, and they blocked a punt. Things had rolling their way, and they got really close. With under a minute left, they were winning 24-23. Then came Case Keenum. Case Keenum found Stephon Diggs over to the sideline. Marcus Williams botched the tackle, and Stephon Diggs kept on running, and it was a heartbreaker, Saints fans. But hey, let's move for Minnesota, shall we? They ended up being the better team, and they are going to the championship round against the Eagles. But let's discuss this, shall we, this game. So obviously, it was a heartbreak in New Orleans, but utter bliss in Minnesota. Let's start with you, Adam. What did you think of the game overall? What were your thoughts going to halftime? What were your thoughts leading up to the final minutes? What did you think of the game?
Like I said last week, I think that these were the best two teams in the NFC, and I would have loved to have seen this game be the conference championship, because both these teams deserve to be further. They've got the talent, they've got the ability, and I really believe that, as I said, this year, these two teams deserve to be there, and the winner will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I've said that before, and I still believe that. That said, I did not expect the Vikings to come out the way they did and handle things in the first half. And I'm going to be talking about it a lot later, but I'm going to say one thing was the catalyst that really changed everything for the Vikings and really changed the entire mindset of the team. That allowed frustration to happen, it allowed anger to come out, and it got Minnesota off their game so badly. And it was just that quick switch that flipped, and everything felt so different. And it was that feeling of utter hopelessness with 10 seconds left on the clock, no timeouts, and your Vikings fans are just sitting there looking at the TV saying, this is happening again.
Yeah.
And we've felt that before. We've been there before, and it did not feel new in any way. It just quickly turned from any sense of hope to dread.
And then obviously that play with Diggs happened, and here's the thing. After everything that's happened to you guys no doubt, as a fan base, Minnesota and the franchise as a whole, you guys deserved something like that to happen to you guys. No,
it's about time.
Through everything you've gone through, the Super Bowl conundrums back in the day, the interception Brett Favre against the Saints back in the playoffs.
Whether it's Gary Anderson, Blair Walsh, Brett Favre, whoever it is, those playoff crushes, they never leave your mind. But then you get some good memories like this as a Vikings fan to help calm those down a little bit. And right now it's great to be happy about this, but in the end it does matter, how the season ends, and it's Philly, and then hopefully the Super Bowl.
Hopefully a home Super Bowl for the first time.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
That would be awesome. Yeah, and if this was the NFC Championship game, and I'm on with you, I would have loved to see this be the championship game in the NFC.
Absolutely.
Just because these are the two best teams. Imagine if that happened to get you guys to the Super Bowl. Like if that play ended it and brought. I mean, obviously it was already wild, and just imagine how that would be, and imagine how triple the heartbreak for us.
What were the numbers on it? 43 million people were watching the game live for the final moments.
Yeah, and which was, I think, one of the highest divisional round, maybe the highest divisional round, for at least just that one moment. I don't think constantly throughout the game it broke any records, but for that one.
People turned there for those last couple of moments, and wow, and they caught a doozy.
They were not disappointed. For the Saints on the other side, obviously down 17-0 at halftime. You can just look on Twitter. You can just go back and look at the tweets of all these Saints fans. Everybody was in dismay. Everybody figured that the season was over at that point.
I shut off my TV, Dan, to be honest with you.
What's that?
I shut off my TV. I went upstairs. Yeah. I completely shut my door. I was upset. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is like, of course the Saints will make it to the divisional round, but how they played, it's just pathetic.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny. Sorry to interrupt you, man.
You're good. Go ahead.
I was following, on Twitter just for the heck of it, because I was curious. The Saints were playing, upset me. And then, they scored a touchdown, then the interception. And like, my dad was upset too. He turned the channel. I'm like, Dad, we need to turn the channel back on. The Saints are making a comeback.
Yeah.
And we were both shocked, and we were both speechless. But yeah, it wasn't perfect.
It's one of those moments. It's one of those moments as a fan when you're watching the game and you go, okay, I've been watching this game for the entirety of the first half. if I don't come back in the second half and I'm not watching, maybe they'll start doing good again, and then I can just turn it back. And that's the feel. That's how it was, and luckily we were right this time. The Saints somehow found a rhythm, but early on it still wasn't. I could still tell that these teams were the same from the first half. The Saints were just executing better. And we never, ever, ever got a run game going, and I think ultimately that's what killed us. Because Mark Ingram just got bottled up. We only had 80 total rushing yards. And you got to credit Latavius Murray and Jurok McKinnon for having good games, especially really good first halves. Murray ended up getting the ball more than McKinnon, which I don't know if you were surprised by that. I was kind of, but. And I think the other thing that really frustrated me throughout this was the penalties that the Saints got. We had 7, and the Vikings had 4. So, we only had 3 more, didn't hit double digits, but we were penalized for 97 yards, and the Vikings were penalized for 30. And some of these penalties were absolute killers on the Saints. One of them was a 34-yard pass interference, which I believe was that Ken Crawley's penalty? That 34-yard?
That was questionable, though. The receiver held his arm. That was blatant.
There were a couple of questionable calls, for sure. I think every game is going to have those. But then again, I think that there were some that Saints fans were questioning that were actually pretty legit. Mainly the one on, I think it was Marcus Williams on Stephon Diggs in the end zone when he kind of grabbed his arm.
Oh, yeah, and he fell over him.
Yeah, that was a penalty. I saw a lot of Saints fans saying, he flopped. That was a legit penalty. But
I'm with you on the one where Diggs reached back and grabbed the hand of the player. I mean, yeah, he might have been grabbing his jersey, but for Diggs to reach back there and grab it to kind of accentuate that, his hand's there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It almost moves into no-call territory.
Exactly. Yeah, that should have been a no-call.
But it's borderline. I can see why it was called, even though I would understand if it wouldn't have been.
Yeah. And I don't think the referee officiating was biased in any way. The Saints were just the penalties that they got called for were just absolutely killer yardage-wise, and that...
Well, let's be honest, too. Minnesota's wide receivers have so much speed, so great at running routes, that, it's difficult to stay with them without being extra physical. And we saw a lot of physicality, especially in the secondary on both sides.
You know who Adam Thielen reminds me of? And this is probably because I'm a Northwest guy and I hear a lot about this guy and I have watched a lot of tape on him back in the day. And I'm totally not comparing them just because they're both wide receivers. But Adam Thielen reminds me a lot of Steve Largent back in the day. Because Largent was fantastic at route running, getting open, finding the open space, knowing the defenses. And that's what Adam Thielen did this entire game. On top of
he made some incredible catches.
On top of making incredibly athletic plays, that I think it was a catch right over Marshawn Lattimore, similar to the Diggs play where you guys won the game. Thielen goes up and just snatches it out of the air from Lattimore, and he had also got, I think a penalty was thrown on that play as well, if I'm not mistaken, for a hold on Lattimore, and Thielen just goes up and grabs that ball. So I think it was smart on the Saints to put Lattimore on Thielen. But Thielen kind of roasted him for a lot of this game, and that's not something we're not really used to.
Thielen he definitely didn't make it easy, for sure.
He definitely didn't make it easy, right? He didn't give up 100 yards against Thielen. He had 74, but Diggs had 137 yards, including that 61-yard score at the end of the game. So, and again, I think you got to credit Case Keenum. Tyler, what are your thoughts on the game? Obviously, first half was bad. Second half, what were you feeling as the Saints were starting to build some momentum and coming back into the game?
I was just nervous, man. I was actually shaking. Like the last few minutes, I was shaking. When everything seemed to go their way. At the very end of the game, for the most part. The funny part is, me and my dad, we love football so much to an extent where days after, it's been so many days after right now, and we're still talking about, well, what if they got this? Or what if this happened instead? And just when I followed the game, it was interesting, I feel like the Saints, whenever they play great opponents, they always seem to perform. I can't recall the last time the Saints were in the divisional round of the playoffs and haven't given a good game. Now, there's been times where, unfortunately, the outcome hasn't come out the way the Saints have wanted. For example, against the 49ers, so long ago, or in this case, this game, but they performed. They gave me my money's worth. It was just unfortunate how it ended up happening in the end. And I think you're the one who pointed out the Saints they flipped. Like yin and yang, night and day. They were really doing nothing on offense or defense to begin with. The first half, and then something just clicked. Drew Brees went vintage Drew Brees. He threw 3 touchdowns to the second half. Michael Thomas, sorry, Adam, he was all over Rhodes. He blew the road wide open.
Oh wow.
Like my usage of words there.
I didn't like that one, but that's okay.
I couldn't think of the roads were closed, but Michael Thomas opened them.
Okay,
but
that's a little bit.
Michael Thomas was.
Is now the right time to be talking about all the Michael Thomas stuff?
Sure, if you want to. I was actually going to ask Dayton, what did you think kept the Saints in the game? But I don't know. Overall, for me though, it was exciting. It was devastating, exciting.
Yeah. While we're on Michael Thomas, go ahead, Adam.
All right. So the turning point in this game was Michael Thomas laying that hit on Anderson Dejo and getting him a concussion. You saw the entire defense get flustered.
Yeah.
Xavier Rhodes had to be restrained.
Yeah.
Got brought to the sidelines. Mike Zimmer had to calm him down. The defense was never the same after that.
Yeah.
They were never able to compose themselves. Even Xavier Rhodes himself, who was playing with an injury and having trouble, and he got that in his mind. I believe that it was a mindset change in the Vikings where the anger took over, and they started making a lot of mistakes. And don't get me wrong, nothing against Drew Brees. And, some of those amazing passes he threw, especially the one to Kamara in the end zone, that was, wow, just dropping a dime there.
Yeah, Drew would do more fades, to be honest.
But, yeah, I mean, it was that play right there that I think changed the entire scope of the game because it changed the sideline feeling. It changed everything. The secondary is so together as a group in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And for Rhodes to be right next to him when that happened, I'm surprised that Rhodes didn't react in a more violent and just different way.
Right.
Like even I wouldn't have blamed him for attacking him. I wouldn't have.
You got to credit Sendejo too for that first half interception he had.
He was having a fantastic game before that happened.
He was having a great game. That play that he made, the average safety isn't making that play. And so Sendejo stepped up in a really important moment. If Drew Brees waits a couple more seconds, I think that he's going to be able to get that completion down the field. But
or even if he just gets a little more air under it. I mean, it was a little underthrown.
Right, because Sendejo had to jump back. He had to make an athletic and great play. But I think Drew Brees kind of underestimated Sendejo's ability in terms. And again, I think that he would do that for most safeties throwing the field. So credit Sendejo. But in terms of that hit, Adam, that you're just referencing, the Michael Thomas hit. Is that in Vikings fans' eyes? Because obviously, for in Saints fans' eyes, we don't really view that as dirty. We know Michael Thomas. We don't think. Do you think that had any dirty intentions behind it? Like, if you do, that's totally. I totally understand. We're probably not going to 100% agree with that. But did you think that had some dirty intentions behind it? Possibly.
I don't like lowering the shoulder to go into the player. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I feel like he could have done more to not. Put so much physicality on a player who wasn't even really looking at him. It was more of a blindside hit, and I don't agree with that. But it is football. It was a bang-bang play, and I kind of expect the NFL to lay a fine on him.
Okay. I do too. I think so.
But yeah, I mean, it happened. I'm not happy with it.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think the final will come just for the fact what you just said, the lowering of the shoulder, and it was, and like you said, it's a bang play. It's tough, and I don't think Thomas had any dirty intentions. It does look like
it did look bad, but he may not have intended it.
And yeah, exactly. So and whether or not you mean to intend it, so I was actually surprised the flag wasn't thrown on that play.
It was thrown and picked up.
Right, and that's right. I'm surprised that they ended up picking it up and not calling it.
I'm shocked by that too.
I would have been a little bit
because Sendejo had a similar hit earlier in the season, and he was suspended for a game and fined.
There was one other penalty that I wanted to talk about real quick before I get into the question Tyler asked me. There was the penalty called on the Saints for, and this was a good call. Referees made a good call when he was hit on the helmet. by, I believe it was David Onamaya. I could be totally wrong, but he got hit on the helmet, which is a penalty if
right.
Once the quarterback releases the ball. But I think the drive, or maybe the drive before that even, Drew Brees got hit on the head in a similar fashion, and no penalty was thrown on that play. And again, that
definitely could have been called.
And I think both of them were similar enough for it to be warranted a penalty. So other than that, I think the game was called, near perfectly. I do think that again, that Michael Thomas one, usually you do see the refs. Obviously they threw the flag, but you see them actually call it, not pick it up. And I wish they would have called that penalty for it's technically roughing the passer on Drew Brees for hitting him in the head. But in terms of what kept the Saints in the game, you got to give it all to easy breezy, beautiful Drew. He kept us in this game, and the experience that he brings for this team is bar none. We'll talk about his future with the team later on this week, but he is saying that he wants to stay, and I really hope he does, because he showed his true gunslinger.
His Drew colors, I like
his Drew colors. His Drew colors. This is what he showed. And then I also think you have to give credit to this defense for stepping up, especially the guys in the middle, Manti Te'o and Craig Robertson. I think they did really, really good in coverage for what they did. Not a lot of passes thrown their way. Keenum, credit him again for attacking our corners and getting it to his best receivers, and credit the receivers for finding ways to get open. But Manti Te'o and Craig Robertson both led the team in tackles. They had 19 combined, and Te'o had a sack. He just stepped up for the injured A.J. Klein, and Craig Robertson was there. And, these are two veteran guys, Robertson more so than Te'o, who were in the moment, and they switched. They flipped a switch. They were able to figure out how to kind of bottle up this, because in the second half, the Vikings struggled a little bit rushing the ball, especially compared to what you guys were able to do in the first half.
Right.
So you got to give credit to the guys in the middle. Who? What about you, Tyler? What do you think? Biggest thing for the Saints to come back in this game?
I'll mention this really quick because the idea popped into my head. I'm sure we maybe after our hiatus we'll talk about it later. But going forward, I appreciate the talents that Robertson and Te'o bring. But just after watching that game, I know there was one play where I think Robertson, man, the Vikings really utilize crossing patterns really well.
Yeah.
But just a couple plays, it's just like, man, I appreciate what these linebackers bring, but going forward, man, we need somebody quicker as far as the linebacker group goes. Anzalone's pretty athletic. He's gone. Klein, I assume he's faster than Robertson and Te'o. He's injured. The Saints really need to draft a linebacker. But as what I think, kept things in the game, Michael Thomas and Drew Brees. Michael Thomas was, people keep on, I've seen on Twitter, people keep on comparing him to Larry Fitzgerald in the postseason, because obviously we all know if there's one receiver who's been like the GOAT of receivers when it comes to the postseason, it's Larry Fitzgerald. And Michael Thomas had a really good game, both games, against Carolina and against Minnesota. And just what he was able to do, what Drew was able to do, I've never seen a performance like that. From all the games I've watched Drew Brees play, I've never seen him more clutch in my life. And even, he just turned 39, and you have a 38-year-old quarterback going on 39, make those plays for your team, despite everything you struggled with in the first half. I want that guy on my team next year. I don't care. I mean, I care how much you pay him, but
yeah,
I want my GOAT on the team next year.
Me
please.
Me too.
Yeah, he was vintage, man, and I felt so bad. I saw a photo too. There was a photo of Drew Brees frowning as he was like walking off the field, and my heart cried a little bit.
Yeah, what really solidified that heartbreak for me was after that touchdown happened with Stephon Diggs. Vikings are celebrating. They go to a shot of Drew Brees dapping it up with Adam Thielen in the middle of the field, and that's when I knew. I was like, that really just happened. And then it took me another 5 hours to realize that we're on the bad end of a really, really bad meme for us. And one of the worst plays to happen for a defense. that is what happens when you play Madden against your friend who's like really good, and you're like, oh, that's total BS, but it happened in real life now, and that was crazy. So, and I also think, Adam, you'll probably agree with me, and Tyler, you'll probably agree with me too. I think this game also came down to the Vikings out-coaching the Saints. I think that there's 3 big reasons I say that. The first is those challenges Sean Payton had to use. Now, it's coming out that the monitors weren't working on the sideline, so he wasn't able to get a good look at it. But if you're not 100% sure, and both of those challenges occurred in the fourth quarter, if you're not sure and it's late in the game, divisional round matchup, you don't throw that challenge. Do not throw that challenge flag. The first one was okay.
I understood that. It was a fast play.
Right, it was bang bang.
They were running up to line up to get rid of the play, making it think, okay, the Vikings may not believe that this was a catch.
Yeah.
So, just throw the flag down, and, I get it. I get that one. Second one, I don't get as much.
Yeah, me neither. That second one was just absolutely ridiculous. Cost us our second timeout. Luckily, we didn't really need that second timeout.
Yeah, we didn't really need the timeout.
Right.
But still, it's after that second challenge flag goes out, no matter what happens, you already lost the first one. Even if you win this challenge, you're still out of challenges for the rest of the game.
Right.
And those really come in handy before the 2 minutes, especially in a divisional round matchup. The second biggest thing where I saw us getting out-coached was late in the first half. Minnesota was driving. I believe it was like 3rd and goal for you guys, or like 3rd and 10, and you were near the goal line. And we drop everybody back in coverage except for 3 guys. And one of those guys dropping back in coverage for us was our Pro Bowl pass rusher, Cameron Jordan. Look, he's a decent coverage guy, especially for a defensive end. I don't care if he's freaking Brian Dawkins out there. He needs to be rushing, especially a guy like Case Keenum.
He was having a great game against Rashad Hill.
Fantastic.
There was no answer. Rashad Hill was playing too high. I know Rashad Hill has good feet, and if he could keep low and keep those feet moving, he'd have a chance at blocking. But he ended up having a really bad game at right tackle.
And I just want to ask Dennis Allen, why are you dropping him back and go look? He, like I said, he's decent, but he's so good pass rushing, and like you said, he was having a great game, even up to that point, with the Saints struggling so much. You have him rush Case Keenum. Keenum had, I swear, Keenum was back in the pocket for 10 or 15 seconds.
It was 10 seconds on the clock,
10 seconds in the pocket. That is crazy. And one of my keys to the game was rushing Case Keenum. Luckily, we kind of started to do that second half. But it was
Saints were getting a lot of hits on Keenum. They may not have been getting sacks. I think there was only 2 on Keenum during the game.
Just 2 sacks, yeah.
But it was a lot of pressure, a lot of hits. And even though they weren't bringing Keenum down, the pressure was definitely there.
And there was also a really good play, before I get to my third one. There was a really good play by Everson Griffin. He had his back turned, hand up, tips a Drew Brees pass that I think if it was completed would have gotten us a first down, and that was a really clutch play by Griffin. The third one where I saw us get outcoached was the last play, and you can ask anybody, any analyst. The setup for the Saints was not 100% correct how it should be in that situation. The corners were playing too shallow. You had Ken Crawley up, and I think Dennis Allen told them. The Saints took a timeout right before the play too, so I want to know what happened in that huddle. But I have a feeling Dennis Allen told them, "Hey, play shallow because I don't want them to get into field goal range at all. I don't care what it is, just make sure they don't get into field goal range. Try to have Keenum complete it really, really short so that it's as long of a field goal as possible." And that's why you saw the corners being really shallow. And for some reason, I don't know why there wasn't a middle safety. We had Raphael Bush in the game, but he was up in the box when the play started. Kind of dropped back into the middle of the field, but not the middle third of the field, which I think is where you should have a safety there. Having 2 safeties only back there. And Raphael Bush could have been the security blanket for anything to happen, like that Marcus Williams missed tackle. If we had Raphael Bush back there to at least try to tackle Diggs after and great play by Diggs, by the way, to stay on balance. Even if here's the bad thing about the missed tackle. Even if Diggs didn't stay on balance and went to the ground after he caught that ball, he wasn't touched. He could have gotten up and ran. Williams absolutely just whiffed him. And Williams, that was a bad play on his part. He had a fantastic game. He had a fantastic rookie season. He made the all-rookie team, I think is what I was just seeing. He's one of the safeties to make the all-rookie team. So he had a great season, especially for being a second-round pick. He had a good game. He had an interception.
Yeah, I messaged him on Twitter, and I told him, I said, I know that he might not read a lot of it, but I said, keep your head up, young man. Don't let one play define you. The Vikings have a guy who we're trying to get in the Hall of Fame, but it won't happen because he's remembered for one bad play. Jim Marshall will always be remembered for the wrong way run. Yeah. After picking up a fumble.
I remember that, yeah.
It's such a sad thing because he was such a wonderful player for so much of his career, but he didn't let that one play define him. He went on to have that amazing career.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, don't let that happen. Don't let that one play stay in your head. Just keep moving forward. And it sounds like that's what he wants to do, so.
Yeah. Well,
and Dayton.
We appreciate those kind words, Adam. Yeah, what's up, Tyler?
No, I see, the thing that gets me is, let's say somehow, Diggs catches that pass, and somehow, Marcus Williams looks up and doesn't whiff the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, I think, from the photos I've seen, I think he would have hit in bounds.
Yeah.
Do the Saints keep Stephon Diggs, keep on moving enough? You know how sometimes you have plays where you'll have like a running back fighting for extra yards,
right,
and the time's still clocking down because he isn't officially on the ground?
Yeah.
Would the Saints have been able to do that,
yes.
or would
yes.
Diggs try to have gotten down to give them enough time? Obviously it was sad.
He caught the ball with like 5 seconds left. If he goes down right there, the Vikings don't have time to run up and spike. They're out of timeouts. The thing that they would have tried to do, I believe, if he caught it in bounds, is run up and spike the ball.
There wouldn't have been anywhere near enough time,
and there would have been nearly. And
the weird thing on that catch is that Diggs' legs were off to the side, and I could see what Williams was doing.
Yeah.
He was going for the hit, low and outside, to hit him to keep him in bounds. Clock keeps running, game over. Exactly. I get it.
Yeah.
But the way that he landed, even, if he would have launched himself out of bounds, which is what I thought he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the play there was to get out of bounds, stop the clock, kick the field goal.
Right.
Until I realized there was nobody back there.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I think that was the biggest mistake, is not having at least an egg. Like, I don't know. I've said my piece about it. That play will haunt us until the Saints win a Super Bowl, which hopefully is soon. I think that play will haunt us regardless. But if we come out and win a Super Bowl next year, that play is fine. I mean, pretty much the same team came out next year, won the thing. We can kind of forget about it. But until that happens, this is a bad memory in my mind. Go ahead. What were we saying, Tyler?
No, I just agree with you. Yeah, it's unfortunate the way it happened, but what are you gonna do about it? And it's funny, Dayton. You too, Adam. I actually another question for you guys. Obviously, Dayton, do you want to list the stats for us while I?
Yeah. Let's get into some stats. Drew Brees was 25 of 40. Again, he definitely stepped up in the second half in terms of execution. 25-40, 294 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, sacked twice for a loss of 16. He came off a really good wild card round against Carolina. Came out in this game a little bit flat. Stepped it up. Still wasn't one of his best or better games, so to speak, but decent. Alvin Kamara led the team in rushing with 43 yards on 11 carries. Ingram 10 carries, 25 yards. Like I said, not going to cut it for us. He got stuffed a couple of times, and I think it was Kamara who got stuffed on that 3rd and 1 late in the game. And again, if we would have got that first down, we can chew some more time off the clock, kick a field goal with time expired. You shout out to Will Lutz. He almost had a game-winning field goal for us in the divisional round as such a young guy. Ted Ginn Jr. had that rush for 11 yards. Michael Thomas led the team in receiving yards with 85 on 7 catches. Ted Ginn Jr. actually led the team. I really like seeing this out of him. And receptions with 8. He had 72 yards. Kamara, 4 catches, 62 yards, 1 touchdown. Michael Thomas also had 2 touchdowns. And I do think one of the other turning points in this game for the Saints was that slant touchdown for Michael Thomas, which I think made it 17-14.
Terrence Newman had no chance of keeping up with him on that move.
Well, that drive was just very nice for the Saints. It was methodical. We got into rhythm. And then once we get down to that point, it's tough for a defense to defend, especially, in all-pro, Pro Bowl wide receiver like Michael Thomas. It's tough to defend him that close when you're playing man-to-man, and slant is the best way to beat a cornerback on the goal line, and so that
especially when you got almost a 40-year-old corner playing. Yeah.
Exactly. Again, Manti Te'o, Craig Robertson. Te'o had 10 tackles, Robertson had 9, Von Bell had 8, Ken Crawley had 6. Rankins had a really nice sack on, I think that was one of my favorite plays of the game too, a sack on Keenum. Great to see Rankins. As far as the Vikings go, you had Case Keenum, also 25 of 40, 318 yards, so they both threw the same amount of passes and completed the same amount. Keenum was just able to get more yards out of it. You got to credit, obviously, the play calling for Minnesota, the receivers there, and Keenum for finding them. He was also sacked twice, only for a loss of 10 yards. He had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That interception was kind of if you're Keenum, you're outside of the pocket, you just kind of throw it away.
That was a horrible decision.
It was a really bad decision. And credit Marcus Williams that's kind of what we drafted him for being a ball hawk, and he was able to go up and get that. Easier interception for him. I think it was harder than it looked. He made it look kind of easy. But yeah, I think Keenum throws that ball out, interception doesn't happen. Or if Keenum throws the ball away, interception doesn't happen. Latavius Murray, 19 carries for 50 yards. He had a touchdown. Jerick McKinnon, 8 carries for 34 yards. He also had a touchdown. And then you got Stephon Diggs, like I said, six receptions, 137 yards. That 61-yard game-winning touchdown. Adam Thielen, 6 catches, 74 yards. So, both guys had 6 catches. Diggs, obviously, more yards, a lot more yards than Thielen, but because of that long touchdown towards the end. Wright played really good for you guys. 3 catches, 56 yards. I was really impressed by him.
Yeah,
he's always been an asset, especially on third down. He's a sneaky option.
He really impressed me. Kyle Rudolph had 5 catches for 28 yards. We're lucky Rudolph didn't go off more. I feel like and I don't know. I would really have to go back and look at the tape. I don't think Minnesota had too many opportunities to go to Rudolph. We covered him pretty well. But he was targeted 8 times, had 5 catches, so I liked our coverage on him, but again, I think we got lucky. We definitely could have got hurt a lot more. The guy you said was going to be a key player to this game, Adam, Eric Kendricks, led your team in tackles with 10. I thought he was all over the field too. Harrison Smith,
that speed of his, I bet you that's kind of the same exact thing that you're looking for when you're talking about having a mobile linebacker who can play some coverage, because I was so shocked that he was able to drop to the Vikings in the draft because people were so worried that he isn't a bigger linebacker.
Right. Harrison Smith, 7 tackles and a sack as well. Yeah, Kendricks is going to be a really good player for you guys for years to come. And what year was he drafted? Which draft was that? Wasn't that?
I am not sure, to be honest. I know he's only in his 2nd or 3rd season.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 2014, 2015. So you guys still have him for a couple years on a rookie scale contract, which is super impressive to see how he's been playing. And then obviously you had Anthony Barr with an interception off Drew Brees, and Anthony Sendejo with that interception in the first half. And you also had Willie Snead. First time this happened all season, and I think it was a good play. Willie Snead had that throw. First time all season somebody other than Drew Brees threw a pass for the Saints.
That would have been a touchdown.
And that, well, at the very least, it would have been a huge game.
Close.
I think Smith was right there. It probably would have forced Kamara out of bounds unless Kamara could make a move. But that would open up the floodgates. But luckily for the Saints, I think that was also earlier in the game. And it was still while we were down anyway, and we were able to come back despite missing that play. So that was still okay. Willie Snead was very frustrated about it, but he did have a catch, very clutch catch on 4th down, gain of 13 yards, kept us in the game. That was great. That helped us kick that field goal. But
I do admit that I still hate trick plays. I hate them. Yeah. Like the Vikings running a double reverse. Why?
Right. Sometimes, and then again, it all depends on. For trick plays, at least for me, what I've seen, it all depends on the talent of the player that you're designing the trick for. That player is because the play call is the play call. It's going to be like a double reverse. You practice it all the time. You're most likely going to execute it. It's going to depend on the talent of that guy. Like, how fast is he going to get around the edge? How good are the blocks going to be? How good is the throw going to be? So, at the end of the day, with trick plays, it's more so the player than the actual call. Tyler, you got another question?
Well, I want to mention, too, Dean, I don't know if you remember, but do you remember who I said the key of this game was last week?
Who did you say? You had a couple of keys. Who was the player
Willie
you
Snead.
said? It was Willie Snead. You're right. Yeah, that's right.
And he made that clutch catch. Yeah.
And I was really surprised when you picked Willie Snead just because he hasn't been involved yet. But you saw Peyton try to get him the throw, and then you saw that clutch catch towards the end. Before we get into game balls, which will end the segment, anything else you guys want to talk about this game? I'll start with you, Adam. Obviously, Minnesota fan base is feeling ecstatic right now. You guys know you have to take care of business on Sunday against the Eagles, but still, I do
have one topic I really do want to talk to you about.
Let's do it. Okay.
What is the feeling around the New Orleans Saints fandom about their coach mocking other teams?
So, go ahead, Tyler.
You can take it, Dan.
Okay. Well, here's the thing about Peyton. He is a loudmouth. He's very intense in games, and we see this all the time. I talked about it also after the Jets game. He's just so animated on the sideline. He's passionate. He's animated. But there was the play against the Jets where they tried to onside kick it, and it went out of bounds. One of the Jets players was going after it. Comes near Sean Payton. Sean Payton starts yelling at him, berating the guy right in his face, yelling, "It's our ball, our ball." And I asked Mark about it. He was our guest at that point on the show. I asked him about it, and I said, I wonder why Payton was yelling. And he said, oh, it's because if you remember back in the day, Sean Payton tore his ACL when a player ran into him on the sideline.
I remember.
And that almost happened again with that player. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But at the same time, you can't do stuff like that. So when I see Sean Payton making fun of, and I don't know if this
doing
was
the skull clap on the sideline there, and it makes it even worse when you know that he did the same kind of thing against the Falcons earlier this year with Devontae Freeman and the choke symbol. It's like I get that he's upset and frustrated. The fans are probably super loud and annoying with that clap. And there were fans behind him, with the scold at and we dat chants and all that. And I can understand that getting in your head, but you're a professional NFL coach. Come on, man.
Well, and as the coach, you have to be the most professional guy on that team. Obviously, everybody needs to be professional. This is a pro league, but as a head coach, you need to set that example. You need to be the pro. With that Devontae Freeman choke, that's kind of what started this thing through the past few weeks of Sean Payton kind of just being very interesting on the sideline, almost, and for the Vikings in this instance, I think that it was really rude of him to do that, unsportsmanlike. And with that Devontae Freeman choke, it's still unsure whether or not it was directed towards the Viking or the Falcons actually choking, or if it was him trying to get the referee's attention for a hold or whatever the story was. If it was true against the Falcons, you can't be doing that stuff, especially since we lost that game. The Jets thing against that guy, you just got to calm yourself down. You don't need to, yell at a player right in his face, especially when the game is over like that. And then with the Vikings, I think that was the worst of the worst. Frustration. We obviously have to. I'm glad you brought that up because feelings with Sean Payton again, and I just said we got out coached by the Vikings. Feelings with Sean Payton are very on edge right now. We still back him up. We still believe in him, but. And I don't think Payton should be fired at all or anything. I don't think his job should be questioned at all at this point. But I would love to see some more, or at least less unsportsmanlike behavior out of him. No doubt about it, especially that Vikings one. That was very disappointing to see. Do you agree, Tyler?
It's funny you say that. I think I sort of disagree. Because, without Sean Payton, can we just take a moment and, almost just congratulate Sean Payton for making almost this identity for himself. Given it's not exactly the best identity, but how funny is that Sean Payton practically schools these young guys, even if they're on other teams. This basically this 50-something, if he's even younger than that, older than that, your old man losing his mind on simple plays. It's funny, if you ask me. If it wasn't for the game, I would gladly watch an hour and a half, 2-3 hours worth of Sean Payton losing his mind. I think it comes with the territory of him being risky, him having balls of steel, him being passionate. I think it's just all one persona that Sean Payton personifies.
And Sean Payton did say that it's all good playoff fun. I believe is the quote he said.
Something like that. And
I love it though.
Sean Payton,
as long as it doesn't cost him anything, as long as he doesn't get fined, doesn't get in trouble, I like it. I think it makes it.
I don't know. I would have liked to have seen a little more. I know that I'm old school, where you be classy. It's smash mouth football, but at the end of the day, you shake hands. It's that kind of like mentality that I like about professional football.
Yeah.
And to me, and a lot of other Vikings fans, this leaves an even more sour taste in their mouth towards the Saints franchise, and I hate to see that.
Yeah,
because I would love to see just two teams go head to head, not all this extra, firepower.
It makes it funny though.
Well, here's the thing, Tyler.
Man would do that,
Here's the thing, Tyler. I agree with you to a point. I think the point you're missing on this is doing stuff like that when in a pro league like that is just really unsportsmanlike. Again,
I know it's wrong, but it's not entertaining. Is what I'm getting.
It's amusing as hell. Don't get me.
Yeah, that's what I'm playing.
It's not entertaining.
It makes for great television.
And now look, Vikings fans are gonna eat it up because Peyton is doing this. Peyton took the L. Peyton led his team. They took the L in this game, and then he doesn't have any room to be mocking the fans. And then you look at, again, Sean Payton, greatest coach in Saints history. He's gonna be a Hall of Fame guy. My favorite coach of all time. He's a great guy. But when you do something like that after a loss, and then you look at Drew Brees goes out right onto the field after that play, and he's shaking hands with the Vikings, and he is a pro.
Absolutely.
Sean Payton needs to. Sean Payton's older than Drew Brees, if only by I think it's 14 years they're separated by. But he's still older, and it seems like Sean Payton kind of needs to follow suit with Brees more often in terms of being respectful and sportsmanlike. But I agree with you to a point, Tyler. It is fun, it's amusing, but when you lose a game, and again, it happened against Atlanta. That's why Saints won the game against Atlanta. Nobody really talks about that choke thing, but we lost that game. And it was a really bad look for our team as a whole because Peyton represents the team more so. Maybe Breeze. Other than that, more so than anybody, Sean Payton represents this team to the fullest extent. And if he's doing stuff like that, it's really uncalled for. So yeah, let's move on. Let's do game balls. Let's wrap this segment up. Game balls. We'll start with you, Adam. Give a game ball to one of your Vikings who ended up winning the game. Who are you going to give it to?
Yeah, on Purple People Podcast, I give away my game ball as well. And on there, I gave it to Anderson Dejo, who was having an amazing game up until he got knocked out. And I feel like if he could have been in that game for more, it would have been a lot tighter at the end. I think the Saints wouldn't have had as easy of a time passing the ball. So, yeah I went with Anderson Dejo on mine.
If you had to give a game ball to a Saint player, Tyler, who would you give it to? Even though we lost. If you had to give a game ball.
I would give it to Alvin Kamara if the Saints used him more, but they didn't. So well, but that's why I was going to mention at the very end. Final thoughts regarding that, but that's just my final thoughts. But Drew Brees, he's a GOAT. He's vintage, clutch. He's nearing 40 years old. The dude can still ball like he's 20. So Drew Brees, that's my game ball.
I like it. If I had to give it, I'm going to give it to Marcus Williams. Again, he had that interception. He had a great game. This entire season, he had the best missed tackle percentage. So he in terms of the opportunities he had and the ones that he missed, he had the best ratio among rookie safeties, and I think among rookie defensive backs as a whole in the entire NFL. Again, like Adam pointed out earlier, and I'm really glad you messaged him. That was really awesome of you, Adam. But you can't let one play define your career. Young guy. All the Saints are giving him love and support. The majority of Who Dat Nation is also giving him love and support. Of course, there's some outliers, the jerks out there, and then the trolls.
Oh, there's bad fans in every fandom.
There's really bad ones, and you hate to see that. But I think the majority of Who Dat Nation is giving him love and support, as are his teammates. I want to give him the game ball. Just that play. Just because that play happened doesn't mean we lost the game because of you, Marcus, if somehow you're listening. And that's why I give my game ball to. Also, he had that interception, which also helped turn the momentum in favor of the Saints, because that was, again, a bad play by Keenum, but Williams made that interception look easy. He had to go up there. I think the intended target was Thielen, and he was obviously trying to get the ball too, if not knock it down. Two Saints in the area. Williams comes up with it. Great play by him. Helped swing us the momentum, and he needs that confidence back in him. So we're going to take a really, really quick break. Well, for us, it's like 3 seconds of silence. For you guys, it's about a minute. We're going to come back, take about 10 minutes to sum up the rest of the NFL playoff divisional round games that we saw this weekend, which were pretty crazy. So stick around. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. We are going to jump into the rest of the NFL right now. There were there were 3 other games this weekend. our teams were the only ones to play, obviously. The Titans traveled to Foxborough, and absolutely no one was surprised with the outcome. Literally saw a Patriots fan on, I believe it was the day of the game, or the day before, it was that Saturday. And I said, are you guys excited to win by 21 points against the Titans? And look, they won 35-14. So shout out to me. They're reaching their 7th consecutive AFC Championship game. I had to double check that because I read that on Twitter and I was like, there's no way that's true.
So impressive.
And it's true. 7th consecutive AFC Championship game. The Jaguars and then the other AFC Divisional Round matchup. The Jaguars did stun most of us.
Yes, they did.
By defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road 45-42, which
I told you guys last week it's going to happen.
You did, and I'm really glad you did. I think Calais Campbell also called it too. I don't know if you guys have seen the video, but he goes, I don't care if we beat Pittsburgh 3-0 or 45-42. We're going to win either. And they won 45-42. That was awesome.
Yeah. Wow.
It showed off their amazing defense. The Steelers almost came back. Almost. I mean, they were trailing by like 14 points, 21 points for a majority of the game, only lost by 3. They had a last-second touchdown to Juju Smith. But if the drive before, if the Jaguars missed that field goal and yet the Steelers score, that's a tied game. We go into overtime. So that could have been a really incredible comeback. But hats off to the Jaguars. Absolutely dominated. They'll face
setting up a Jaguars-Patriots conference final. That's going to be... I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think.
It's setting up a Blake Bortles Super Bowl MVP. That's what it's setting up. They'll face each other on Saturday. The other NFC game featured the Eagles and the Falcons. This was a really good game. I think a lot of people, obviously, the Falcons were favored in this game. More people picked the Falcons than the Eagles, even though the Eagles were the 1 seed. This was a shootout. This was a good game. Eagles ended up beating the Dirty Birds 15-10. And the Eagles are going to play at home against the Vikings in Philly this Sunday, which I think will be a really good game. I think it's going to be a battle of defenses, to be quite honest with you. This Eagles defense is really good. I think this Vikings defense is great. So, Adam, we'll start with you. Which one impressed you the most over the weekend?
I picked the other games right. I've got to say that I did not see the Eagles really even contending with Atlanta this week. I went into this game, and I expected Atlanta to just put on an offensive clinic, even though the Eagles' defense is really good. I didn't see the Eagles being able to move the football at all, which they really didn't much. And by watching that game, I feel a lot better about the Vikings' chances against Philadelphia, because if the Eagles can only put up 10, 17 points, I like Minnesota's chances because their offense is decent enough to get those points up there. So, yeah, I kind of wanted Atlanta to win so that, Minnesota could face the Falcons at US Bank Stadium. Mm-hmm. That home field advantage is crazy. But, yeah, it's that the Eagles, they sure impressed me.
You guys don't have to travel too far, too, which is, going from Minneapolis to Philadelphia isn't
not too bad.
Too bad. So, and then if you guys win, you just come right back home, which will be... I think that's the 2 main reasons pulling for the Vikings. One, if your team loses, you're gonna want to root for the team that beat you, so that you can say, "Hey, I lost to the Super Bowl champions in the playoffs." Yeah. And then the other one is I really want to see you guys not only a home Super Bowl, but a home Super Bowl for the Vikings after this.
Hey, the only other time there's been a home Super Bowl was the Miami Dolphins in Ace Ventura.
Yes, I remember. Oh yeah, when he was trying to find the that's a great movie, and I totally forgot about that.
So wonderful.
And and if you play, I don't know if you guys play Madden 18. Apparently, the Super Bowl was in Gillette Stadium, according to Madden, because when they play the opening thing, they're showing the Super Bowl recap, some of the plays Brady did, but it was at Gillette Stadium with the Patriots logo in the middle of the field. And that really confuses me. That's really weird. But yeah, I'd love to see that in reality, the first home Super Bowl.
Reality.
Tyler, which one impressed you the most over the weekend?
I'm gonna go with the Jaguars simply because it's unfortunate they let Big Ben and company put up 42, but they put up 45 points, and Blake Bortles didn't complete many passes. He didn't throw many either. But the fact that it's just absurd right now. How they were able to, for the most part, dominate the game by, for the most part, they were ahead by, 1 or 2 possessions, sometimes 3, and it was just insane. Jalen Ramsey, I can't wait to see if they win again. When it comes to sports media coverage, what he'll say, that'll be really funny. But I'm hoping, I'm praying, really, because I do not like the Patriots. If the if the Jaguars are able to put up 45 against the Steelers, force Big Ben to make several interceptions, mistakes, I'm hoping they could do the same to Brady. I'm just praying they do that though.
Yeah.
I won't be looking forward to the Super Bowl if the Patriots are in it. So
I would love to see a Jaguars-Vikings Super Bowl.
Me too.
That would be amazing.
Keenum versus Bortles. I mean, either way, coming out of the NFC, you're going to see two quarterbacks who you didn't expect to see in the Super Bowl at the beginning of this year. So that's really exciting to kind of see that parity. And then if the Jaguars win, that's a Super Bowl matchup we didn't think. So that leads me in. We'll start with you, Tyler. Final topic of this podcast. Predict each championship game. You don't have to really give me a score. If you have a score in mind for each one, give it to me, whatever. But pick a winner for each game. Who do you think's going?
Who I think or who I want?
Who you think? I don't care what you want, man. Who do you think's gonna win?
He wants the Jaguars so bad, but he thinks it's gonna be the Patriots.
Exactly.
I get where he's at because that's where I'm at too.
Yep.
Then hopefully, if I think it'll become I'll think it into existence.
All three of us just need to. All three of us just need to think about it, and it'll happen.
Jaguars,
rule of law.
That's what I've got.
Jaguars and Vikings.
Yep.
That's who I have too. Who do you have, Adam?
It's gonna be Patriots Vikings.
Yeah. Well, okay.
As much as I don't want it to be that combination, it's what it's gonna be.
Say it's going to be Jaguars Vikings real quick. Say Jaguars.
Just keep picturing it in my head. Make it a reality.
Just say
Come
it
on.
and it'll happen. No, I actually wouldn't mind seeing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I know. I'm not one of those people that really hate on the Patriots. I really enjoy their success. I really enjoy being alive for football dynasty. You don't get to see these often. I know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm hugging up to, I guess, public enemy number one for NFL fans. But
know who is second.
the Patriots, again, you don't see dynasties like this often.
You can dislike them, but you still got to respect them.
You have to respect the team, the success, everything about that organization for the most part. And again, their image is tainted because of the cheating allegations and those fines and suspensions that come from them. But if you just look at their on-field play, this has been one of the best teams. And so many coaches in the NFL wouldn't be here without Bill Belichick and what that team has been able to do. And some of the most exciting games we've ever seen wouldn't have happened without the New England Patriots, especially last year's Super Bowl. So I would love to see the Patriots in another Super Bowl. I'd love to see them travel to Minnesota to play the Vikings. I think the worst Super Bowl matchup is going to be Eagles-Patriots. I don't know. I just don't feel like there's...
I don't think the Eagles can contend with the Patriots.
Yeah, and there's not... And again, there's not enough storylines there, to be honest with you. And I'm thinking of this as a media fan, outside perspective. Not going to be enough headlines if it's Eagles-Patriots. I don't know. But if it's Vikings-Patriots, you have home Super Bowl, improbable team making it, and then you have the Patriots against securing another Super Bowl playing at US Bank Stadium. So, Adam, thank you so much again for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure having you on. Plug away one more time at your social media where people can find you before we go to the outro.
Yeah, shoot me over a message, MN Viking Zombie on Twitter. That's me. You can send me messages. We can talk about football, wrestling, really Walking Dead, anything. I'm there to chat and trying to get a little more active on Twitter. So hit me up over there if you would. You can check out some of the Vikings stuff on the Viking Age. UndeadWalking.com is where you can check out a lot of great stuff on The Walking Dead. Purple People Podcast, weekly show. We run straight throughout the year. So make sure to check it out every once in a while, especially the episodes that we got on Saints, because there was a lot of good chat there, and I think that it could get some of you guys either fired up or nodding in agreement. I don't know which.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do appreciate you guys having me on, and it was great that you invited me back because I had a good time last time, and I hope that we can come back next year to talk about the Saints and the Vikings in the conference championship.
Oh, yes. Really hoping that happened. I just followed you on Twitter, by the way, Adam. I really actually enjoyed your Twitter. Obviously, we had to message you to get you on the show, so I had already looked through your Twitter. It's great. And for any of you Walking Dead fans, it is, like you said, to begin the show. Perfect time, and Tyler's a fan too. Perfect time for Walking Dead fans right now. You have second half of the season coming up. You have a brand new season for the separate show happening, and then you get greenlit for. I honestly hope The Walking Dead doesn't end anytime soon, just because of the quality it's brought in terms of shows and how big of a fandom it's brought. So that's great that you get to cover that as well. and how big
Fansided's a great network. I recommend you checking out any of the sites on the network. It's a fantastic place to get a lot of news, information, opinions, really anything. So no matter what you like, there's probably something on the Fansided network you'll enjoy.
And both of us are via Fansided as well. So speaking of which, Tyler, it's time for your world famous outro, man.
There you go. Now, before I get my world famous outro, our typical ending saying that we always say, "Who dat?" Should I end it with playing the champagne, or should I wait for that for the next episode?
Let's wait for the next one for the season recap, which will be on Thursday.
Yep. Okay. Thanks guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to check us out on Twitter. That's the main social media account where you can find everything we do. Polls, questions, guests, everything you want to know about this podcast. Check us out there at the WDD Podcast. You can follow Dayton Brown at Dayton_Brown_. You can follow me at Raymond Tyler M. You can check out on Facebook if you would like to. Who Dat Dish itself, the account that we roll with, that you can see all the amazing articles. Just search Who Dat Dish on Facebook. You can find this podcast similar to Adam's podcast on iTunes, on YouTube, on Blog Talk Radio. Just search the Who Dat Dish podcast. But thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll be looking for you where you check us out. So
and like I said, on Thursday will be our final podcast talking about the Saints 2017-18 season. We'll be having Mark George on as a guest. We might also get one more guest on to be determined, but obviously Mark will be on the show for sure as a guest, helping us recap the Saints season. And then I believe next week we will also be having a podcast episode. It's either going to be before or after the Super Bowl, talking about, we'll have Christian Catenacci of Catch the Blitz on, kind of talking about the season as a whole in the NFL, Super Bowl matchup, whatnot, kind of previewing the draft a little bit. And then we'll be off for about a month and a half, and then get right back into draft talk, prospects, bringing on some more guests, maybe even doing some really, really early previewing of some of the teams the Saints will be playing in the regular season, just to kind of, get the ball rolling. So stay tuned for that. If you follow our Twitter, you won't miss out on anything at the WDD Podcast, like Tyler was saying. That's where we will keep you up to date 24/7. So again, thank you everybody so much for listening. We hope you're doing better today than you were on Sunday for all you Saints fans, and we welcome obviously all the Vikings fans listening. Congrats on the win. Very, very awesome game. One of the best games I think anybody will ever see. One of the best endings. And even though we were on the wrong side of it, it was still great to go to the playoffs after an 11-5 season. So again, guys, thanks so much for listening and supporting us. It's been a great journey. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Again, thanks for listening, and Who Dat?